Hi, Laura back again, and this time we are talking about the topic of supplier development. Supplier development is defined as any activity that a buyer undertakes to improve a supplier's performance and/or capabilities to meet the buyer's short-term or long-term supply needs. Essentially, in common sense English, it's anything that we do that helps the supplier's performance, and that can range really widely. So how do we develop suppliers then? Well, you could go on the less expensive end, which would be things like setting better KPIs, more performance in that way. You could second personnel to them to help with training, giving them education and training procedures yourselves. It could be paying for them capital assets and so on. So there's quite a lot we can do to develop our suppliers. And obviously, if we're paying out quite a lot of money, investing capital assets and so on for our suppliers, we need to make sure that we are doing this correctly. And so there are 9 stages of a supplier development program that we need to go through. Here is step 1. Step 1 is identify our critical products for development. So using the Kraljic Matrix, we may help look at the cost and risk of our items and which ones are critical for development. We're not going to engage in supply development activities for everything, especially not routine items, low risk, low cost. So these might be your strategic items or potentially your bottleneck ones with the greatest risk. So that's what we need to do first. Step 2. Now we've identified our critical products, step 2 is to identify critical suppliers for development. So this is all about identifying suppliers who have the potential and most importantly, the capacity for development and can help meet your future needs. So we're not looking short term here, we're looking long term. We're not going to invest in this supplier in all of this money and so on and time without them being able to meet our future needs. Step 3. Step 3 is once we've identified our critical suppliers, we have to appraise their performance. So we use frameworks like Carter's 10 C's and have a look at how they're performing in certain areas in terms of quality, in terms of financial risk and so on. And also if they're innovative, it might be things like their research and development programs or technology use and so on and so on. Step 4. Step 4, we need to determine performance gap. This is the gap between present and desired supplier performance. For example, you're looking at things like quality achieved versus quality required. And this is really important because the whole purpose of this supplier development is to cap that gap, to create a corrective action plan to reduce that gap so there is no longer a gap. Don't know how many times I said gap there, but hopefully that made sense to you. Step 5. Step 5 is to form a cross-functional supplier development team. This allows you to appraise suppliers, identify gaps, negotiate and collaborate with suppliers on improvements. But it's so important that it's cross-functional because then it's not just one department's view. So essentially having people from different departments engaging in this supplier development team, including the supplier in the future, means that you get the bigger picture and you're able to iron out issues. And also you get more people bought into that supplier. Step 6. Meet with supplier's top management. This is key. Your top management should meet with their top management to clarify mutual expectations of this supplier development and to build trust. If there's no trust, no rapport, then this is likely to fail. So this is a key stage to ensure that you've got that rapport and trust built. Step 7. Step 7 is agree how perceived gaps can be bridged. So this is key. Both buyer and supplier teams have to agree on how you are going to cap the gap, how you're going to create corrective action plans to ensure that that supplier is developed enough to provide the service that you require. And there may be misconceptions or different perceptions here, and that's why you need both supplier and buyer on board. Step 8. Set deadlines for achieving improvements. These deadlines should be reasonable, jointly agreed, and strictly enforced, so everybody knows what they're working towards. And without these deadlines for achieving improvements, then the goalpost keeps getting set back and things just drag on and on and on. We call it student syndrome, that unless you have that deadline, you won't put in the work. You know that for your own exams. And so this is also required for a major project like this. And the final step, step 9. Monitor improvements. So it's not good enough just to put in that supplier development program and do nothing about it. There needs to be follow-up on this. You need to see how well it's working. Have you capped that gap? So follow-up visits, supplier evaluation, performance feedback, and meetings to discuss this feedback too. And those are the 9 steps of supplier development. We hope you found this useful. Please subscribe and check back for a new model video soon. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.